Bruchim Abam B'Shem Hashem B'Shem Irgin Shirter, like to welcome everyone to today's share from Rabbi Yakov as Mishlita on Dine Toys as Sefiras with Sefiras Haomer, mistakes and doubts in Sefiras Haomer. To have the great cheshbon sponsoring a share, call Irgin Shirter 718-851-8651 or email ist@yeshivanet.com. Harav Smith.
Someone asked me recently, it was around 20 minutes after shkia, and I said, you didn't count sefira yet. I told him, I also didn't count sefira yet. He said, no, I didn't count from yesterday. In other words, let's say he didn't count, it was like 20 minutes after shkia, today 8:20, he didn't count for Matzah Shabbos sefira. Can he still count? And then a few minutes later, he'll count for the new day. Counting during the Bein HaShmashos, does that count to be yaitz of the mitzvah? Or we had a different shaila where it's unfortunate, but someone that was an Ovel, davening for the whole year, and the first night of Pesach, first night of Sefira, he missed the Sefira. What happened? He typically, by his minutes, he counts by the Seder night, not in Shul, and he got more at Chatfenu Shina earlier than he expected. Because he forgot. And what does he do for the rest of Sefira? He's gonna have to. He can't make a bracha. He's embarrassed. And then the old shaila, someone's not sure if he said Sefira. So sit back and enjoy an unbelievable sugya, because these shilas and many, many more are all totally in one simple understanding of the unique feature of Sefiras Haomer. And I'll explain what I mean. You know, Sefiras Haomer is not a typical mitzvah in the fact that l'chayra, Sefira is one mitzvah, counting the countdown till Shavuos or till the carbon. But then again, we make 49 brachas, we make a bracha every single night. So the question that we have to clarify is it true that Sefira is taka one mitzvah? But then you have to understand, why do you make 49 brachas? More logically, if it's 49 brachas, then it should be 49 mitzvahs. The nafkamina will be the rest of the shir. Now we say this halacha, and we say it with such a moon as if it came from Sinai. If someone missed a full day of Sefira, he didn't count a night or day, so from now on he counts without a bracha. At first glance it does not make sense. Why, if he's counting, why can't he make a bracha? What is it, like a knas? If you miss that you can't count? We'll soon see even an Einis Gama that misses Sefira has the same halacha. So why should it be that if you miss one night, you can't count the rest of the nights with a bracha? You're counting anyhow, say a bracha. You say, I know, it's pashut. Because really, all 49 days is one mitzvah. If you missed even one day, you're missing the tmimus. It's not the ma'aseh mitzvah. You can't make a bracha if it's not the ma'aseh mitzvah. So let me ask you a pashut question. So if you tell me it's not the ma'aseh mitzvah, so why are you counting the rest of the nights? You know, in Yiddishkeit, it's not like, why not? It's why yes. We do things with a reason. If you missed, if you're not doing the ma'aseh mitzvah, if it's not tamimis, so you might as well learn a parak of mishnayos. You know, Sefira takes some time. You could finish the whole Masechta Saita during the Sefira time. Why are you counting if it's not a mitzvah? Stop wasting your time. So if you're going to tell me, oh, I know why. Really, it's 49 brachos. It must be 49 mitzvahs. So good. So count the next night. I'll give you a zeichel adova, the saber oizen. If someone had a flight on one of the night of Chanukah and he missed the whole night of the whole mitzvah of their Chanukah that night, no doubt about it. The next night is regular. So how do you understand this unique halacha that if you missed one night, you count b'loi bracha? Either count with the bracha or learn mishnayos. So that's really the question, and really it's totally an our chakira. How do you look at the mitzvah of Sefira? Did you miss the mitzvah because you missed once? So I'll ask you another question, another halacha that we say as if it came from Sinai. If someone forgot to count last night, for the Sefira last night, Matzah Shabbos, he remembered today, Baruch Hashem. So count today without a bracha. Same thing. Is it a mitzvah to count by day? Is it a day mitzvah? Is it a night mitzvah? If it's a mitzvah to count by day also, so make a bracha. If not, why are you wasting your time? But the question is much more powerful than we think. Because here's the pliya. If you count by day today, so no bracha. That means it's not really a mitzvah. But for the next few weeks, you count with the bracha. How does that make sense? If you're good enough that you could count from now on, so count today with the bracha. So we have two main halachas that seem to be nishtahei nishtaher. count b'lei bracha. So once we understand that, I think we'll be able to approach all our shilas. So the emphasis, the source of the mitzvah of sefira is in two parshas in Torah. In Parshas Emor, the Torah makes it a countdown until Vikrapta Mincha Chadosha Lashem, until you bring the carbon. Parshas Re'eh speaks about the mitzvah of sefira, but the countdown is Vasisa Chag Shavuos Lashem. You're counting down to the mitzvah, to the Yom Tov of Shavuos. Now, the truth is, both of them are important. But here we have an important nafkamina halacha. Because there's no doubt about it, in the Zman HaMikdash, sefira was definitely the Raisa. The question is, today we don't have the Mincha Chadosha Lashem. Is it still a deraisa? So we have a big agenda, but I can tell this to you very clearly. It's a machlokes gedolei rishonim. The Rambam sheet and Tamidim Perek Zayin Halacha Beis, and it's the Chinuch Shin Vav, and the Bialoch in the beginning of our Simon Tov Peites says other rishonim hold even today sefira is deraisa. But we must be honest. The Roiv rishonim and Poskim hold that sefira b'zman hazeh is only d'Rabbanan. The Poskim say this. The Aruch HaShulchan, the Ran in the beginning, in the end of Psachim, the Beis Yosef in the end of Tov Peites, the Aruch HaShulchan and Siv Beis, Hiskimu, HaPoskim, that sefira b'zman hazeh is only d'Rabbanan. Most importantly, the Mechaber, the Ramah, the Bialocha, all say that b'zman hazeh sefira is d'Rabbanan. What's the pshat? By mer pligi. So the Aruch HaShulchan in Siv Tesvav explains that the machlokes is Siv Gimel explains what is the mitzvah of sefira. If it's counting down to the Mincha Chadosha, well, today's d'Rabbanan. But if we could say enough of a mitzvah to count down to Shavuos, then we have even b'zman hazeh. Now, but the Maisa, although Roiv Rishonim and Poskim say b'zman hazeh is only d'Rabbanan, the Poskim, because of the great mitzvah of sefira, we try to satisfy both opinions, and when we can, we treat it like a deraisa, like we'll see. Now let's talk tachlis. What is this minig that we have, that we say, this psak, that if you miss a whole day, so from now on count b'lei bracha? It doesn't make sense. Where's it coming from? So Tosis Menachos Av Samach Vav at the very end quotes a Bahag. Bahag, they say about him, Kol Dvar of Divrei Kabbalah. And Tosis Lashon is, if you missed one day, Shuv Einay Seifa, Mishum de Bayi Tmimus. Now, it sounds familiar, right? But look what Tosis quotes it. If you missed till counting a whole day, Shuv Einay Seifa means from now on you don't count at all, which makes a lot of sense. If the mitzvah is all over, why waste your time? Now, I wanted to see the lashon of the Bahag inside, because Tosis quotes not the exact lashon. So the Gemara has a little hagah on the Tosis, and he sends me to the Sefer Bahag on Hilchas Atzeres. I looked it up, and most prints today it's Amud Kuf Pei Hey, and it doesn't mention anything about this halacha. It talks about the second halacha, if you're allowed to count by day. So Zokt HaGoyis Ben Aryeh and the Goyis Harach, two of the later Achronim, that we don't have this Bahag that Tosis refers to. But to me it was a pliya, because Be'emes we'll soon see the second Bahag is in Hilchas Menachos, the end of the Sefer, it's Amud Tov Reish Samachei, and there is the halacha. Listen to the halacha. If if you missed the first night, the rest of the nights, loimani, don't bother count. Imagine a person didn't count the first night, so he never counts sefira that year. My timer, the bein and sheva shabbos temimais veleka. In other words, the Bahag is saying if you missed the first night, don't bother counting because you don't have the mitzvah. The mitzvah is temimais. So if you miss one day, it's not temimah, so why waste your time? Now, it was very interesting, because Lamaisa, this is what we say. If you hold that you missed one night, it's all over, so why are you wasting your time? I mean, you could might as well learn the Perek Mishnayos. I know it's not Lashon Hara to count, but why should you have to count? So I think we found the Bahag. But the Pella is, these Hagoyas say we don't have the Bahag. Because you look again, maybe it's not such a right to our Chiddush. The Bahag stressed you missed the first night, Leila Kama. Maybe if you're missing the first night, that's the biggest chasaron in Tamimus. You see, I don't know if you're allowed to say this, but it makes sense to say this, that the ikka of sefira is the first night and the last night. Something similar to the bracha of the aliyah, the first, the beginning and the end. Maybe the Bahag is saying that if you miss the first night, then you can't count. But who said all subsequent nights if you miss, the same halacha applies? But the answer is very pashut. Zil basa taima. If you tell me that the reason why if you miss one night you can no longer count the bracha is because of chsar and tamimus, what's the chiluk the first and the other ones? So I can't understand that those are goyis that say that you saw it. But the good news is that in the Torah, the new Shulchan Aruch, Friedman and Oiz V'Hadam, when they quote this halacha, they send me to the Bahag on Hilchos Menachos. So we're comfortable to say that the Bahag himself, not just Tosfos, the Bahag and Tosfos says that if you miss any night, you don't have to count. According to that, what would be the hezbollah? Very pashut, because as the Malbach explains in Siman Samach Beis, the mitzvah is not concluded until you finish. So if you miss even one night, you're not doing the mitzvah. So now we see very well the sheet of the Bahag. If you miss any night, stop counting. However, it's not the end of the story, obviously, because Tosfos at the very end he quotes the Bahag and says a few words: "B'tema gedoyla hu v'lo yitachin." The Bahag can't be. So obviously Tosfos rejects the Bahag, but he doesn't say why. But you look at the Rosh in the end of Psachim Siman Mem Aleph, Oy Kasa Bahag, he quotes it, Ve'ein nira l'rid d'cholayla v'layla mitzvah b'fnei atzmahi. Tosfos and the Rosh are certainly holding, if we make a bracha every single night, it's a mitzvah every single night. So each night is a separate mitzvah. Oh, so let's say you missed any night, doesn't make a difference which night it is. You know what it's like? It's like you missed the first night of Hanukkah. So the second night, you're back in business. What's the shaykhis missing to the next night? So the machlokes Tosfos and the Bahag is the machlokes, what's the mitzvah of sefira? Is it one big mitzvah with 49 brachas? I guess the Bahag would hold it's something like dalet kaisis. Dalet kaisis is one mitzvah, but we make 4 brachas. So the Bahag held it's one mitzvah. You make 49 brachas, not a stira. But once you miss one, it's all over. There's no reason to count. Tosfos holds each night is a separate mitzvah. Now, according to Tosfos, if I miss the whole night and day, what do I do the next night? I count with the bracha. So we see our chakira is a machlokes Bahag and Tosfos. Now, Lamais, there are 2 important nafkaminas. According to the Bahag, no bracha counting, no bracha and no counting. Like Tosfos, you count with the bracha. How do we paskin? See, our quote, our halacha that we say count b'lei bracha doesn't exist. It's nishtinis teher. So the Shulchan Aruch in Siv Ches, I was saying today's tapei test, im shachach levarech be'echad hayamim bein yom rishon. Listen to this. Bein shar yamim. Now, until today, you might not know what he's talking about, but I think he's referring to the Bahag, because the Bahag says he missed the first night, but the Shulchan Aruch Kedarka in a few words says is lav dafka. You missed any night, so you lost the bracha, you lost the mitzvah l'chayra. So from now on, Zok to Mechaba, Soifa b'shar yomim b'loi bracha. Now this, like they say in Yiddish, nishtahin nishtaher. This is not the sheet of the Bahag, because Bahag holds enough to count. It's not the sheet of Tosfos and Roy Rishonim, because them hold you make a bracha. So where does this come from? Again, most Rishonim hold like Tosfos. So Mechaba should have said count with the bracha. You want to go to Bahag? Fine. So say don't count at all. Where did this Mechaba sheet come from? The teretz is, like I told you earlier, it's the uniqueness of sefira. Even though there's a big machlokes, but we try to satisfy all opinions. The Bahag is called Dvar of Divrei Kabbalah. So the Paiskim made a compromise. Mechab made a compromise. That not to count the rest of sefira is unthinkable. Because according to Rabbi Shainim, you're mechayiv in sefira. Regular chayiv. But then again, to make a bracha, something that according to the Bahag is the bracha of Atala, because the mitzvah is all over, there's no v'tzivanu, that you can't do. So the good news is, bracha is eina ma'akvos. You can make a mitzvah without a bracha and you yaitza. So that's the compromise of the Mishnah Berurah and Sivkat and Lamed Vav and Lamed Zayin. We count every night because l'maisa like Rabbi Shayim Yimchoyim. To make a bracha is risky, like the Bahag is bracha vatala. So play it safe on all ends and count mikanu la'Allah beloy bracha. So yes, it's mamish. The psak is a compromise. It's takanish tinish der. But that's the greatness of sefira. We try to satisfy all opinions. The Minchas Yitzchak, I'm just going to show you how wide it goes, that this is really, the halacha is each night is a separate mitzvah. The Minchas Yitzchak in Chelik Tes Siman Nun Zayin has a shayla about someone that remembered very late in Ben Hashmoshes, can he still count? So he says that really the Bahag is a das yachid. Chol HaKadmoinim cholko alav. Toisvis dachu daitel gamri. But for some reason, he says, in this Pashat HaMinig, Lachush Adas HaBahag. It became a minig, Tichosh HaBahag. That's his understanding of the matter. No. It's a minig, but the halacha, like Rav Yishayim. Derech HaShulchan and Siv Tezvav, he says, the Kadmoinim ask on the Bahag, but Dvar of Divrei Kabbalah, halacha Umayrin King. We can't fight with Divrei Kabbalah. So whatever the Pshat is, the Bahag is a Chiddush Gadol, but it made it to the Shulchan Aruch partially. So that's why you can understand another halacha. We know if someone missed a full day of sefira, so we tell them, okay, you can't count with the bracha, listen to the Shatz's bracha, and be yaitz with his bracha. And that's not just like, why not? That's a very important attitude. Because if a person missed one day, so from now on, according to Rav Yishayim and Tosfos, he's mechuyev to make a bracha. So you can't count without a bracha. But you have the bahag that ties your hands. So what do? Be a mensch, do it right, listen to the shots, and be yaitz with his bracha. And Taka Mishnah Berurah says that in Sivkat and Lamed Zayin. But I want to add, if it is negeya, number one, you save a little busha, you don't have to ask the shots, please be yaitz me. Because the Yisoid is based on a Gemara Rosh Hashanah, but Moshe says in Chayla Gimel Siman Dalid, that when a stam shots, he's doing his job, he's being yaitzi, to whom it may concern. Stam das, he's included everybody. It's only a yachid, you want the yachid to be yaitzi with bracha sefira, but you're embarrassed to tell him you missed a day, so you just listen to him. It's no good. Because you have to have kavanas mashmiya. So if you have the shliach tzibah saying it, you don't have to tell him anything. Yachid, make up in advance, tell him to be yaitzi. Now also, when you do listen to a person listen to the shliach tzibur, it's important to say amen on his bracha, because l'chatchil to be yaitz shemei kohen, he both say amen. But here's the thing that maybe people don't realize. When after he says amen, after you say amen to his bracha, count sefira right then and there. People wait to say b'roivam with the oilam, but there's a big break between the bracha of the shots and your counting. Plus, if you wait for the tzibur, so a person impulsively answers amen to someone else's bracha, which he hears. It's also not right, because then it's a hefsek between the bracha and the mitzvah. So now, again, for the say sefira very loud with the shots, you're giving away your problem. You're advertising that I already missed. So do it quietly, but do it right. So that's the Chayr Pashit, but the Yisoid HaDavar is that saying along with listening to the shots is almost l'chatchila an inyan, because really you should make the bracha yourself. Now that's the first big halacha. The second big halacha, the big Yisoid, is mamish the same nishti nishteher and doik v'tishkach. We say, as if it came from Sinai, that if someone forgot to count Matzah Shabbos, but remember today, Sunday, count today, b'loi bracha. But tonight, go back to counting with a bracha, which at first glance doesn't make sense. Because if counting by day works, so I count it, so why can I count? So why can I make a bracha? If you'll say counting by day doesn't work, don't you know sefira? The Gemara says, the Mishnah says in Megillah Daf Chafam Ad Beis that sefira is only b'alayla. Okay, so how does it work for tonight? And why should I count today if I'm not yaitza? So this is the pliya that we have to deal with. It's mamash and manavshach. Because the emes is that from the pashtus, it seems that the mitzvah of sefira is only by night. Okay, and that's the Mishnah Megillah Toises. On that Gemara Megillah quotes a different sugya that maybe it is a night and day mitzvah. But our hachra doesn't make sense. But the biggest plea is, listen to this. Someone comes over to you, he says, I didn't count sefira last night. I heard you by a share today. Maybe you can help me out. I didn't count last night. Can I count today? So tell him, you came to the right person. Today you count without a bracha. So why without a bracha? Because really, according to many shittas, you're not yoytze by day. So you can't make a bracha al safik. Fine, okay. He listens. Comes to you tonight. When I want to count tonight, I'll make a bracha. Oh, tonight you're allowed to make a bracha. I mean, from tonight till the end, I can make a bracha? Yeah. So he asks you correctly, you don't make any sense. To make a bracha one day today, you don't let me, because it's suffix. But tonight and on, a few more weeks, I can count with a bracha? How does that make sense? To count, b'shas counting, no bracha. But from now on, I consider as if I counted today with a yoitza. How does that work? How does it stim? So again, we have to look at the source. What's the source of this halacha? Either way, it's a bahag. Now this bahag is in Hilchas Atzeres, Amud Kuf Behei, very clearly. But listen to the way he says it. Heiche da anshi, that's nash, I forgot. Heiche da anshi, he forgot, v'loi birach al sefira so'ima, mei orta. He didn't say it the whole Mitzvah Shabbos. Mevorech l'mocha zok the bahag, no problem. Sunday morning, afternoon, before shkia, count with the bracha. Now that we can understand because the Bahag held, like the Toysa's Girsa, that sefira so'ima is a night and a day. So if it's a night and a day, why not make a bracha? But then again, the pashtus is like the Mishnah, that sefira is like matzah. It's only a night mitzvah. If someone did not eat matzah, he was an oinez gam, did not eat matzah at Pesach by night, will you tell him to eat by day? You're wasting your time. Zicha no bracha. So here again, the Bahag says clearly that it's a mitzvah night and day. So that means you can count a bracha today and continue tonight. Very good. Now, many Rishonim, Tosfos, both Menachos and in Megillah, argue on this Bahag, and they say, what do you mean? The pashtus is, it's only a night mitzvah like the Mishnah Megillah. So according to them, you don't count today at all. And more so, even if you did count today, you're not yoitza. So how can you count with the bracha? So again, we have our shaila being machlokes gedolei rishonim. How do we paskin? Listen to this. Shulchan Aruch Siv Zayin, shachach v'loi birach kol halayla, yispa b'yoyim b'loi bracha. Like we said, you count today without a bracha, and tonight continue counting. It's a pliya. Why are you counting today? How does it work for tonight? The teretz is, it's the same attitude. Be'emes mitzvah sefira is a greater mitzvah. I mean, every mitzvah is big, but in this respect, the Pais were very careful with it. So really, we could say that the Bahag and many Rishonim are right, that today you could also count. By day you could also count. But to make a bracha, when Tosfos is emphatic about it, that you can't be yoytze sefira by day, it's like eating matzah by day. So why take a chance to make a bracha? Count below bracha, and tonight you'll continue. We'll soon see why. But that the Mishnah explains, Yisba Hayoim, because there's a suffix, like the Magyu yoytze by day, but to make a bracha is risky. Now this is another one of the beauties of this sugya. What about the rest of sefira? Are you allowed to continue counting with the bracha? So you look in Shulchan Aruch, you're not going to find that halacha. But it's kamat meferish. Because in Siv Zayin, the Mechaber says, if you didn't count at night, and you count and you remembered by day, count today without a bracha. The Azyan halacha. Siv Ches, he says, that I mentioned earlier, he missed the whole day, so then you count from now on without a bracha. So he talks both ends. If you missed entirely, and also if you missed by night, and you counted by day, so v'loi bracha. What about from now on if I counted by day? So since Siv Ches says only if you missed the entire night and day you don't make a bracha from now on, is Mashim the Mechaber hold if you counted any time by day, it's good enough that you can continue counting at night from now on with a bracha. And the Mishnah Berurah spells that out. When we say count by day below bracha, that's one part of the good news. But the better news is from now on you count with a bracha. Like we said, so our halachah that we think from Sinai is really from the Mechaba. But both halachah that we say are nishti nishteher. Both are major compromises. But we have one more big question. How does this work? How do we say, tell this person, you missed last night, count today. No bracha. Because according to many Rishonim, you're not yoitza. But tonight, all of a sudden, you become so confident to make a bracha. So here, it's mamish the same yisoid. Because the Maisa, the Bahag is called Dvar of Divrei Kabbalah. And he's comfortable to say you could count Lechatchila today with a bracha. But that we don't do because we could avoid it. But from now on, why can we tell the person to make a bracha? So the Trumas Hadeshin in Chelik Al Simon Zayin, that this would be considered a sveka. Lamaisa, some hold, even if you miss entirely, you could count each night. And even if not, you count it by day. So you have two good reasons to believe you could count from now on with the bracha. Rely on that. Don't forget, according to most Rishonim, even if you missed entirely, you count with the bracha. So here we have it even better. We have it Moed Rishonim, and also we have the Bahag, that you count by day, it works. But you want to be much more gishmak, you could say it's a mamonashach. Listen to this. To count from now on, I could say, like Rav Rishonim, every night's a new mitzvah. How do you ignore the Bahag? The Bahag says that if you miss a night, you can't count. But in this case, I'm following the Bahag. Because what does the Bahag say if I count by day? It's perfect. So I'm covered by all bases with the Bahag. Mamonashach. I count new bracha, new mitzvah. Bahag says counting by day works. So it's an unbelievable mamonashach that if you count by day, below bracha, to play it safe, by night comes, you're back on track to count with the bracha. So chaz over briefly what we learned today, the machlekes Rishonim, if serious Ayin B'zan is the Raisa, the Rabbanon, the machlekes also in if each day is a separate mitzvah, also the machlekes if you count by day, but at the end of the day, we do it safely and try to be satisfied all shittas. Now let's apply this on Maisa. Someone had a true story, it's a Maisa Shahaya, someone was he was busy with the chayla, mamish the whole night, one day of sefira, and he didn't count sefira, and Pasha, since he never forgets, he didn't think of counting by day. Bekitza, he's all sabrachen, he missed a full day of sefira. And his taina is oinisach mana patre, oisik mitzvah. Now the truth is, he might even be right that oisik mitzvah is not even chayiv in sefira last night, but zil basataima. It's not a knas that we say if it's not my fault, there's no knas. Zokti levushe mordechai in chelik aleph tzim and tzadik aleph. He says pashat upshita that there's no heta for an oinis. I feel bad for him. But if the voice is not doing a ma'isa mitzvah because he's missing tmimus, what's the chilek with an oinis? And Taka the Kapachayim, Sifka and Tzad Gimel says the same thing. Now I should mention also that it's lav dafka a person that didn't say sefira. Sometimes we had a shaila that a person said the wrong sefira and didn't correct till the next night. So the Mishnah in Sifka and Lambat Ches, lav dafka he didn't say sefira if he said the wrong sefira. Someone asked me the shaila, I could make this up. He counted the fourth night. He's davening so longer, so he said it after the Olam. And someone's corrected, no, tonight's the fifth. Okay? So he quickly said, fifth night. The next night he's davening with a minion, and they're saying sefira, and the Shliach Tzibah said, the fifth night. So he wanted to correct the Shliach Tzibah, tonight's the sixth. Then he realized, no, the other fellow, he stared me wrong. It was the fourth. So he asked me now, he made a bracha, counted fourth, Teichid said fifth, and never corrected it until the next night. So had that been a wrong sefira, then he missed sefira for the rest of the sefira, because it's wrong is like not doing it. But I did find a number of poskim say that a chazara b'toyis you could sort of dissect, like Palgin and דיבור. He made a bracha, said the right sefira. He added the wrong sefira. Okay, so ignore that, and you could say that we salvaged his sefira. But had that not been true, so making a mistake is as bad as not saying it at all. Now, Lamaisa, if someone comes to me, let's say, he's not sure if last night he said the right sefira. He said sefira, but not the right one. So if he has nervin, so he's wrong, because by asking, you have to have more confidence. But let's say it's a legitimate suffix, he's not sure if he said the right day or not. So again, we could say, first of all, why I think you made a mistake. But more than that, here we have the Trumas Adeshin's big yisoid, that when it comes to sefira, we assume sveka to make a bracha. So number one, maybe he said the right sefira. Who said he's wrong? And even if he said the wrong sefira, and kaloi haya, we have the sheet of Rabbi Shainim, that every night's a new mitzvah. The Mechaba in Siv Ches quotes the Trumas Adeshin. Shachach, he has a suffix, what to do. Zok Mishnah, the Pshat in Trumas Adeshin, the Mechaba is because it's a sveka to be makel. Now, the Mishnah applies that in a very broad way. Sometimes a person counted a sefira that lechatchila he should repeat it. L'mashal, he counted his combination doesn't stem. He said 16 days and 2 weeks and 3 days. Now, not being a big mathematician doesn't stem. So Mr. says, anytime you made a mistake, correct it right away. If you didn't correct it until the next night, and you really should have corrected it, you could be yaitzel lachad b'di'evet. Like Mr. Whenever we say count over below bracha, if you didn't do it, nishkefelach. Why? Because at the end of the day, we have this big yisoid of sveka. Once you have any, first of all, the halach, it should be each night separate bracha, separate mitzvah. But you have a problem, we don't go against the bahag. Once you have any tzad to be makel, you could add that up to a sveka. What's shver, what still it needs a little hezbah, that the Paiskim, I saw the Magen Avram says this, the Pri Megadim says this, Chayodim says this, that when it comes to Safek Brachas Lahakol, we don't say sveka. Safek Brachas means don't make a bracha, even if you have a sveka. So I saw the Sefiras Tshuva in Siman Reish Tzadik Dal, and Shem Bezalman Alicha Shloim and Amit Shin Nun Vav, both mecham to the same yisoid. That you're right, in a regular Safek, even sveka doesn't change. But our case of sefira, as I told you many times, is unique. Because the ikal halacha, each night is a new bracha, period. But we tremble from the bahag. So once you have any suffix, it's not a regular sveka. This is the halacha l'maisa, that really each night's a new mitzvah, new bracha. But the bahag is the bahag. Once you could avoid it by making a sveka, even if it's a insignificant sveka, we're going to assume ki'ilu, he has a regular chiyuv. To the extent, I should mention this, some chassidim go with the psak, b'shem the Baal Shem Tov, that even if he missed a full day of sefira, and there's no sveka, missed it, period, you could rely on the other shittas. Now, not all chassidim go with that, but that is definitely the shita that many chassidim follow, because again, it's, the way the Mechazitzchak explains, even more understandable, it's a minig, mechaba's minig, to follow the bahag. So, mechatesa. Okay, that you have to do only if that's your meaning. Otherwise, we go with the Shulchan Aruch. Interesting question. You have a suffix if you said sefira. So what do we paskin? Sveka, count the next night. Someone asked the Sholem Meshiv in Madura Dal Chela Gimel Simon Kuf Chav Zayin. What do you mean you have a suffix? We have ways of determining svekas. Toich Lamid, we say, you did like you used to. Only more than Lamid, then you got used to it. So toich lamid, you didn't say sefira. So why do you have a suffix? It's a vada you didn't count. No, what do you think the Shalom Eish's teretz is? That mi'ikad din, each night is a new mitzvah. He says, besides that, it's a new mitzvah, sveka the reis l'chumra, maybe it's the reis sefira. So the end of Bekitza, what he's saying, what I'm saying over and over, that's the side of today, that mi'ikad din, each night gets its own bracha. But you have to have something to sort of be justifiable to overlook the bahag. So once you have this yisoid, it's okay. Now, so the question that someone once asked is, typically people have a suffix if they said it at night or not. By day they didn't remember to say it, but at night they're not sure. But he's a vakerta. He knows for sure at night he was busy, he didn't say sefira. He has a suffix, maybe he said it by day, and maybe not. What's his psak? So you're wondering, what's the chiluk? Suffix is suffix. Zok the Erech HaShulchan, that's the Sefiras Shepaisik in our Simon Sif Tes, a goynish Einfeld. If you have a suffix that you maybe said by day, maybe not, we have a sveka lahachmer. Because according to many Rishonim, counting by day is worthless. So maybe we'll say, you're not sure if you counted, and even if you counted by day, like many Rishonim, it's not even worthwhile. So he says, let's call it a sveka lahachmir, And such a suffix you cannot count from now on. And the Kavachayim and Sifkat Peites quotes this, la'alacha. But I never saw this until I learned this sugya now. And the Stimus HaPaiskim is no chilik. And we understand why. Because this is not your typical svek sveka. This is that mi'ikir din halacha, you can make your own bracha every single day. But we don't go against the Bahag. So once you have any tzad to be makel, so the Aruch Shulchan uses a lush in a different context, havu d'loi l'hoisif. The minig is only when you have no sveikus. We could also say, Taka, like I told you earlier, the fact is that mi'ikir din we go with the shittas that each day is a new bracha. Shmuel Kamenetsky in the Sefer, Taka says this Yisoid, that it's basically halacha, any suffix is enough to tilt the scale. We hope the next question should not be negaya, but we'll be yoytze by learning it. And we've heard such a shayla recently with someone who had lost a relative and he was on a ninus, and it was a long aninus, it was flying with the mace. Bekitza, someone's going to be an oinen, certainly by night, maybe by day also. What does he do about sefira? Because if you miss sefira, you can't make a bracha. And the person has a built-in problem, because he has to daven for the omitted every night, and he can't make a bracha because he missed al-taninis. So one thing is clear, an oinen, le'olechem, is potter from mitzvahs. Not just he doesn't have to do it, don't bother, but he's not mechuyev. Magen Avram, in Tov Reis Sadak Vav, Sifkat Tezayin, says, if an oinen decided, he can't miss Megillah at night, he listens to someone laying in Megillah, he was not yoytza. You have to lay over if the ninus ends. Because an oinen is potter, he's not a mechuyev b'davar. So that's the problem that an oinen has faced. So, Lamaisa, even though he's an oines gomer, or he's more than oines gomer, he's not a mechuyev b'davar. The Torah patted him. But zilbasa taima. If he didn't say sefira one day, it's not tamimus. So here we see another shlab, not just oines, he's not even mechuyev. But what can we do? So the Bialacha and Sivches quotes in the Har Sholem. I looked it up, it's basically the same idea. But he basically says that one thing we could say, if the Kfura went Keseda, and in the afternoon he has time, he should count sefira right then and there, below bracha, and then count continuously from now on. The Har Sholem has a problem with that, and he wonders, why does it help counting by day? You see, counting by day he assumed was tashlumin, but since he was not mechuyev the night before because an oin is potter, so there's no tashlumin. So his teretz is, no, it's not a tashlumin. We go with the ikashita, like the Bahag, that sefira is night and day. So he says it's like an oinim, le'olechem, that doesn't say Havdalah Matzoi Shabbos, but says it up to Tuesday. If there's no chiyuv in the ikadai, why is it tashlumin? Teretz says, no, the Zman Havdalah is till Tuesday. So too Zman sefira is until the next evening. So another raya, that halacha we go with the Bahag, that sefira is also a day mitzvah. So that's, in the best scenario, he could count by day, and he's back on track. If he's flying to Eretz Yisrael, and there's a full day of Aninus, again, Zokti, Taka the Har Sholem says, what could you do? He Taka didn't do the mitzvah. So, the Mnaid Yehuda, in Archaim Kama Simon Chavzayin, and the Bialacha quotes him, and he writes, he's Megabev Kulais. He puts together a few kulais to try to salvage the situation. Number one, he says, b'makam hefsid, the oinen could do malacha, so maybe do mitzvah also, he's in a loose sefira, like an interesting kulis. Also, he says, an oinen is part of a mitzvah that's now, but if he misses now, he's going to miss the whole sefira, so that is no p'tur of an oinen. Very mechudatik asvaris, and some say, b'chlal, oinen could do a mitzvah that won't distract him from the mace, sefira just takes a moment or two. At the end of the day, that's the minig. Even though it's a stickle of a chiddush, but lamaisa, the oinein, if he knows he won't be able to say it sometime the next day, let him say it at night and rely on the kulais of the Noid Yehuda. In fact, I saw a chiddush, the Beis David, one of the early Achrayim in Archaim Reish Samach Vav, says, let's say the oinen made a kfura by day, and he wants to count by day. So he wants to say a chiddush that the oinen can make a bracha by day, because his chiyah began now. But again, most poskim say that's not true. Lamaisa, the chiyah is at night. He was patataka, but doesn't mean you could say for him it's a new chiyah coming by day. So at least we could say one thing, that if he does have the ability to say sefira by day, avada he counts below bracha, and from now on he's back on track. A very challenging question is, like I just mentioned, a shatz, an avel, or lavdafka an avel, whatever case, or a rav, that his job is to count the sefira berabim, and then the olam follows, and they missed a day. Again, it happens very often. The first night of sefira, the second night of Pesach, count by the seder. Sometimes you forget, whatever it is. But lamaisa, here's the question: a person, a rav or a bal tefillah, a nachiyah that has to have the omid, missed sefira one night. What does he do from now on? It's a nightly busha. So it's well known, the Hartzvi and Chelik Beis in Menayin Hay quotes the Ma'aser Rav of the Beis Halevi. For whatever reason, he missed one night of sefira, and he was a shatz. So he got someone from the crowd, from the Olam, a reliable, steady, I say. You have to be reliable and a steady, who davens every night with your minyan. And the agreement was, from now till the end of sefira, I'm making the bracha to be moitzi you. You're going to be the shemeya, I'm going to be the mashmiya. Don't make your own bracha. You're yoitzel lechatchila shemei koina, but I'm making a bracha not for myself, because I can't make it. I'm making for you. And this goes on the whole sefira. Again, has to be a reliable, steady. Tzvei dinim. Because steady is not reliable, or reliable is not steady, is not worthwhile. Get someone every night, and the plan goes on program, and it's wonderful. Now, the problem with this is, and all the Chayim discussed this, it's not a heintige problem. Part of a shemei ka'oina, as the Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah Chavtes, that the mashmiya, the one that's making the kiddush or the avdallah, has to be a bar chiyuva. I can't listen to a child says a beautiful kiddush because he's not a bar chiyuva. We see the extent of that. The Yushalmi in Megillah, Perik Beis, Halacha Gimel says, a ben krach and a ben ir. Don't forget, in Megillah there are days, people have different days of laning the Megillah. I, as a ben ir, can be moitzi a ben krach or vice versa. Because we have different chiyuv, we're on different pages. So even though I'm chayiv and you're chayiv, but different days. So many of the Achrayim, Prichodosh, very emphatically in Tov Peites Siv Ches, he says, I heard from a B'Shem Rav, it wasn't the Beis Halevi, because he was before the Beis Halevi, but I heard a Rav that missed the sefira, so he told one of the listeners to be his whole plan, and I can't believe he said that. It's a mistake, because the Rav is no longer Bar Chiyuva. Once he missed sefira, he doesn't have the mitzvah, and that's what he says it, and very strongly. However, there are definitely svaras lahakum. First of all, don't forget that this Rav is not didn't become a cotton. He's not a goy lahavdil. He has a chiyuv, but he's an aynis. He can't do it. Aynis means not a bar chiyuva. Then Har Shalom that I mentioned and the Shlem Zalm that I mentioned have a different angle. He says, let's say I already count the sefira, and I finished today, and someone who Pasha can't talk says, please be mighty with the bracha. I can't do it. He communicates, I can't talk. I can be mighty him. The fact that I was yoitz to the mitzvah means I'm ois bar chiyuva. So a person that missed one night, he's ois bar chiyuva. But va'ika, we could always fall back to our emergency hatch, and that is a sheet of Rav Rishayim that every night's a new mitzvah. So the Rav and the Avel Shatz is as mechuyev as anybody else. And that's why the Poskim say this eitzah can be employed. If it's done right, it's a perfect eitzah. Rav Vosna, with his grace of places in Chelik Gimel Siman Tzadik Vav, discusses a Rav that has this problem, and whatever the cheshbon is, he can't even ask someone to make this deal. It's not nice. So he says, Al cover Torah, the Rav could rely lechatchila on the shittis that each night's a new bracha. Like Taki the Baal Shem Tov, and he doesn't mention that cheshbon, but that's certainly where he's coming from. Question: someone is scheduled a surgery. He's waiting 6 months for this. B'kitzur, he's not going to cancel it, and it's going to be a long surgery, and he's going to miss a full night of sefira. He's going in early evening and heavily sedated. B'kitzur, he knows according to the program he's going to miss one night of sefira, night and day. That is. Should he not start counting with a bracha, because eventually he's going to lose it? And the same child, someone's catching a flight, and again, traveling over the dateline, it's an amazing thing. In a moment, you lost a day of your life, because you go from Monday to Tuesday. So again, you lost the day of sefira. So our question is a very basic one. So the Poskim say one thing is clear, and it's probably somebody asked the shayla. Someone's a chayla masuk, and the doctor says he's not going to live much longer. Can you start counting sefira? which is a funny question because the doctor was given Rishus L'Roifa L'Rape, not to give death sentences. How many times the doctor was wrong? That's number one. Number two, we have the shita that each day is a mitzvah. And number three, I think it will be terribly dangerous for the B'chayil to say, you know what, don't count. Oh, he's a guy for Ketila. So Rabbi Yankov, someone once saw Rabbi Yankov, oh, Yena was nifta, but don't worry, he was an old Yid. Rabbi Yankov says, Vezov, an eltere mensch is chayav misa. You know, as if an elter Yid, as if he's no longer cheskiyim. So an elter Yid or a chayla, even a chayla masukin, avada counts. But here we're talking about, according to the plan, and again, it won't change, but derech hateva, maybe he shouldn't count. In fact, some suggest that if he does count, and what happened that he missed a day, either because of the flight or the surgery, lemafreya, all the brachas will have atala. Because according to the Bahag, he blew it. He lost the mitzvah. And the truth is, the makar for this concept in Tosis and Ksubas of Ayin Beis, where Tosis says, why there's no sefira by Azava, the pasuk svarta, just like we have by sefira Haomer. So the Tosis says, because Lamaisa she might see dam again, and then the bracha she made was levatola. He or she, whatever it is, levatola. So counting, which might turn sour, is a bracha levatola. And Taka, I saw the Shraga Haomer and the Chut Shani both say, if someone knows he will miss in the future a day, so if possible, try from the beginning until that day to hear a bracha from someone else. This we have the schus of the bracha, but you don't run the risk of bracha levatola. But the emphasis, I saw most poskim reject this shayla, in fact. And again, it's not my bekiyas, but there are a number of rayas that when a person does a mitzvah now, and now is good, it's chal. Don't worry about mafreya. The famous Ritzvah Chul of Kuvav, someone that washed the Til Sedayim, was planning on eating bread, and only had a bite, and then he couldn't finish. So it's not a bracha l'tala mafreya, because the shas when you washed, it was a chiyuv. The Shach and Chosh Mish with Shin Vav Zayin says a shoichet that shechte made a bracha, and the animal was found to be an avela. Not a bracha l'tala. You did a mitzvah shas ma'isa. The famous Chasam Soif in Yeridea Shin Chav, where a person was mafresh chal with a bracha, and then it got mixed up, whatever the problem, and he has to be shoyal on that frasha. So now what's he doing? He's saying the first frasha is batal mavutal. What happened to the bracha? Look, some say there's no problem with bracha vatala, because b'shas ma'isa the mitzvah was chal, the bracha was chal. Plus v'zeha'ika roi v'shoinim hold each day is a new mitzvah. So even in the worst scenario, he missed a full day. What he said till now was good, and more so in the future can also make a bracha. And that's why Rabbi Yashiv has a tshuva chel gimel pei gimel b'shem bezalman b'tzeil hachachma. Almost all the heintige poskim say that that's not an issue. If you do it now and now you're mechuyev, follow Shulchan Aruch, and what you did will not turn levatol. Now the reason why people get nervous, because the Mishnah Berurah seems to hold taka like this problem, that if you miss, it was a bracha levatol mafreya. Now, what's this Mishnah Berurah? So I'll tell you. It's an innocent mistake, but it's a mistake. But let me tell you. Mishnah Berurah Sivkat and Gimel quotes the Shulchan Shlomo Miriam, that says the following: Nashim are not mechuyev sefira. That's what he says. But the Ma'aseh, they became very firm and they count sefira. But he says, Dr. Shulchan Shlomo, they should make a bracha when they count sefira. He's talking about every single night to every one of our Nashim. Why? The bavada yitu b'yoyim echad. They're definitely going to miss one night. That's the pashtus of the Shulchan Shlomo. Now what does he mean? If you miss, so what happened? So a lot of men miss, so therefore what? Teretz said if you miss one night, lemafreya, it's brachas levatala. So mi bikesh zois v'yetchem. So it's a raya, Mishnah Berurah holds that lemafreya, the brachas become levatala. So first of all, look up the Shulchan Shlomo, and he seems to say of pashta cheshbon, nashim are potter from sefira. That's number one. You want to be from, but it's going to turn sour. You want to be from, don't talk lashon hara. But make a bracha, and then you're going to miss. So what do you need that for? He's only saying it to nashim that miss, that don't do it because you might miss one of the nights, right? Also, more importantly, you look at the lashon of the Shulchan Shlomo inside, bevada yitu b'yayim echad v'lo yoydin hadin. They don't know the din, which din? That from now on, if you miss a full day, you count b'lay bracha, and they'll make a bracha. So that's why Halicha Shlomo that I mentioned, Rabbi Yasha that I mentioned, Rav Steinman all say Nashim are different for two reasons. Number one, they're really potter, so don't look for trouble. And number two, it's only they're not going to know the halacha. So they got to say, a man that knows he might miss, there's no chash, bracha, levatola, he'll know what to do. More so, Nashim today who are learned, they know the halachas. That's why the meaning has become in many, many circles, Nashim do count. They don't forget, and if they do forget, they know the halacha, how to proceed. Now the question about a flight that will miss a day of sefira is basically the same idea. You count until the flight, and after the flight, you follow halacha. Now the only thing is, you have to know, some people say, well, if you have a flight that misses a sefira, so don't take that flight. So that's a different shayla. Are you allowed to put yourself in a matziv of oin that will create an oinus? Now you're okay. So that's a different shayla. If it means a lot to sefira, so take a different flight or wait. But in halacha, it's no different than the chayla that's having an operation. You count every day regularly, and hopefully even that day you can try to chaprayim, but if not, you're back to the reg halacha, mikan v'allah b'loy brach. Now the last group of questions is really a sugi for itself, oid chazayin l'moyed, but I have to mention one point in Yonenu. And that is the question that I began with, someone that remembered 20 minutes after shkia, today, Sunday, I guess 8:25, they didn't count Motzei Shabbos. Can he count now and keep that for Motzei Shabbos sefira, and a few minutes later he'll count Sunday night? The question is, what's the status of Bein Hashmoshes? The question is much more pronounced for people that can't stay up late at night. For them it's late at night. Older people, or if you're living in Glasgow, that sefira is 12 o'clock a.m. and you can't count the regular time. Can you count Bein Hashmoshes? Can you count Miboy Joim? What's the earliest time for sefira? So the emphasis, Bein Hashmoshes is not a chiddush to us. We know Bein Hashmoshes is a suffix period. However you learn the suffix. So here we come Seif Masim Achshavat Chila. Zok Toisim Menachas Samach Vav. Listen to a beautiful shita. Since Roy Vishainim, that's Toisis holds, that Sfir B'zman Hazeh is the Rabbanon, so we can rely that it's only a Sveika D'Rabbanon. Sveika D'Rabbanon L'Kula. And since Bein Hashmoshes is Safik Yom Safik Laila, we could use that in our favor and count Sfira now and consider now Bein Hashmoshes Laila. And that's the sheet of Toises. The Toises then adds, in fact, if Lamaisa Bein Hashmoshes is good, it might be L'Chatchila. Because then you have the full Tmimus. If Bein Hashmoshes is okay, so chaperayim then, because Tmimus means to have a full day of sefira. That's how Tois is convinced that Bein Hashmoshes is acceptable al Suffolk. And the Marshal and the Tshuva and Yud Gimel writes to a Kil that they counted, listen to this, they daven Ma'ariv early, and they counted sefira right away. Why not? Sefira d'Rabbanan, you can be Mekel. The Shla writes, V'shaitai Chadoshim Yikarbo, a wonderful minig that they started counting sefira b'vadei Laila. Because again, in those days they davened earlier, and it seemed that was a prevalent custom. Now, this is based on our Yisoid, that Sefira is Rabbanim. And Taka the Shulchan Aruch, in Siv Gimel, HaMespal Ematzi B'mi B'oi Joim. Now, listen, B'oi Joim does not mean shkia time. B'oi Joim, and Mr. Brewer explains, that B'oi Joim means Bein Hashmoshes. And they're counting with a bracha. They're counting 25 minutes after shkia, like tonight, 8:25, they're counting Sefira with a bracha. So, but you want to be from, you want to count 72. So, but you might forget later because you already daven Ma'ariv. So count with them below bracha. Make them tonight. I'm only being yoitz with them if I forget to say later. So I'm counting below bracha now, conditional. If I remember to say it sometime tonight with the bracha, so I'm vatal that. If I forget, I'm sticking with this. But the tzibur is counting then. What's the heta Bein Hashmoshes? So the Mr. Brewer Pashit, because Bein Hashmoshes is a suffix, Sveika D'Rabbanan L'Kula. Now, the Belacha discusses that mi b'oi joim mamish before shkia is problematic, because that's Vadei Yom. But one thing we see that the minig is quoted in Shulchan Aruch, but Poik Chazim Ayam B'Debar, because look at this, it's interesting. People that daven typically Ma'ariv 45 minutes after shkia, 50 minutes after shkia, but Sefira, they're going to daven Ma'ariv a little later to make Sefira by 72, which is funny, because Ma'ariv is the Raisa L'chol HaDeis. Sefira, Rav Shitas is the Rabbanan. The teretz is, that's what Yidna, we do the best. We daven 45-50 and say Krishma over by 72, then we have the prerogative. But sefira, you can't say it twice. Why are we so focused on saying sefira bisman? Teretz is pashut. There's a big chilek between sveikat habana lakula and the chatchila. Avad, if you say it's sefira 20 minutes after shkia, you're yaitza. But lechatchila, there are Rambam shita and the chinuch shita, and it's the mitzvah of sefira. Do think correctly. So that's why in Siv Beis, the Mechaber says hamadaktik einam seifrim ad seis hakechavim v'chein roi lasois. So now we understand the early bird minig, the early bird minyan, I should say. They daven early after shkia. They daven ma'ariv and then sefira, and those that wait all the way to 72, they both are in Shulchan Aruch. Rav Vosner was asked a question in Chelevav Siman and Gimel that Lamaisa, if someone forgot to shake lulav and it's already ben hashmashis of Laila, so he quickly shakes lulav without a bracha. So why here you count sefira with a bracha ben hashmashis? So he says, Al pi Taisis, Amaridik Yisoid. According to Taisis, that's tmimus. Not just Yolaudu. So it's a better suffix than Lagabi Lulav. But again, those that daven earlier, it's based on this Taisis. Now, Lamaisa, you have to keep that in mind. When someone wants to daven early, you have to make sure that it's correct. The Rabbi Yashiv has a tshuva in Chayla Gimel Siman Pei Daled regarding people that want to daven Yiboy Joy Mamish and rely that it's good for Ma'ariv, it's good for sefira. He says that's wrong. Rav Vosner does have a tshuva. He has two tshuvas about those that are living in those countries that it's very late, that you can't say it's wrong for them to count even before shkia. If it's good enough for Ma'ariv b'di'eved, it could be good enough for sefira as well. I'm not saying you could rely on that in our situation, but when someone is living in Glasgow or those type of countries, that it's 12 o'clock a.m. sefira, and European boys are disciplined, they go to sleep early, so they have a problem, and they can rely on that shita. I'll tell you a beautiful shayla. Someone got to say sefira, and he remembered 25 minutes after shkia, like I told you, and he counted sefira then below bracha, of course. So I told him, but remember, the rest of sefira, you have to be careful to count sefira at night. No longer bein hashmashos for the new day. He said, why not? I said, Tartar Asasri. Today you count to 25 minutes saying it's day. You can't count the next week and saying it's night. So he's alarmed and he said, what do you mean? But Lamaisa, Lagabi Tefillah, it's only the same day, it can't be Sasri. I saw the Piskei Teshuvos as a beautiful Yisoid. And he says that here we have to be chosh for the bahag, that it's one big mitzvah. If one big mitzvah, you can't have Tartar Asasri in the same mitzvah. So if you want to count one day, Ben Hashmashis, for the day earlier, you have to keep the rest of sefira the right zman. Now, of course, when someone davens early Shabbos, there's no heter to say sefira then. That's Poshet, that's the Maral, that's the Maral Takashita. Well, once we had the Shilas, they had an early Ma'ariv Shabbos minyan, and it's like 8:15, 50 minutes before Shkia. The Gabbai says, don't forget sefira bisman, and one person says, oi, he's worrying about Friday night sefira. I didn't yet count Thursday night sefira. So that, all the Paiskim say, Moshe says, but before Moshe, that he can still count Thursday night sefira. Because, as we say many times, early Shabbos means you turn Friday into Shabbos, but it's still Friday. It's still the Friday sefira. Let me leave you with three things to think about. True story, and I saw there's many tshuvas about this. A ger was Megaya during sefira. And the first night, what does he do with sefira? So someone to say that he could count from now with a bracha. This is his tmimus, this is his mitzvah. But it's not true, because the mice we saw by an oinen, even though he was mamish potter, he had a tour of oinus, there's no chiv. But then again, you have to have 49 days. So the ger will say below bracha. That's a whole shot if you can count as a guy for a different time. Second question is really interesting. Someone came to America, and because of the tilt laderach, he forgot to count sefira last night. He looks at his clock, and Eretz Yisrael time, it's 9 o'clock p.m. So basically, it's too late. It's way after Bein Hashmashis. But here in America, it's a machaya. It's 2 o'clock. So do you look at the time in Eretz Yisrael, or you look at now? Think about that. One more question that I think highlights the beauty of this sugya. Rav Zilberstein in Peri Mosik in this week's parsha on the mitzvah sefira says as Ma'aseh Shehaya. As someone was davening Kedarkei, a mincha 50 minutes after shkia, which is the Shita Ben Tam, and got to Atachayin, he realized, I didn't count sefira from today. By the time he finishes Shemona Esrei, it's going to be already night, too late. You can't count sefira in the middle of Shemona Esrei, that's ridiculous. So he davened Atachayin, and the Baruch sent him a gift. He started saying a tefillah, Rabbi Shalom, it's already the 40th day in Oimim. It's already 5 weeks and 5 days in the Oimim. I wanted to learn the whole Masechta Saita and I didn't have enough seichel. Please give me some more seichel. And he decided that he turned it into a tefillah, and tefillah you gotta say. And he counted a full sefira, 50 days, and 40 days, and said, and the weeks and the days. So Rav Zilberstein said, you missed the point. You turned it into a tefillah, that's your problem. Because the chinuch, the beautiful chinuch in Shin Vav says, what's the purpose of sefira? Laharis benafsheinu, achefetz hagodl al yoim hanichbod, hanichsaf loveinu, ke'ebed yishav tzeil. We're counting down to the great day of Kabbalah Satoira. V'yimne tamid masa yavai ha'eis, hanichsav ulai, because the minyan shows that a person's whole purpose is Torah, and you said a tefillah. You have to count down each day, make it count for Kabbalah Satoira, and you missed the boat, but for us that we're doing it, let's do it right. I got to talk to you all.
Shame Irgens retired like you a bigger shkia of Smith for today's share. Rabbi say the shul is making the annual adopted Kyle breakfast today of adopted Kyle and Kiryat Sefer. The Rosh Kyle, Rishoyach and Toysik is here in the back. They're invited to breakfast, whatever's left of it. Well, we can start there from Chazik, the Limad Torah and the Kesha with the Kyle first Aaron and Kiryat Sefer. Just good mitzvahs. After Kaddish should be a seeking bedroom. Kadanya Manakash Emer to Geshbon Zakis as Israel figure him to mitzvah Shanema. The Noy Chofes and Mansitri Yagdol Tervi Yade. Skalo Kaddish Shmei Rabba. Come, there was a young Machus Yashim Konim Karam Mashiach. I can imagine Heichel Beis Yisrael Bagolo Makarim Shmei Rabba. Okay. Well, we have to count over, or we'll forget which day it is. Let's do the sequence.
Okay, let's just chaz what we learned today. The Kula Alma Sefira is a very important mitzvah, the lashon of the chinuch we just mentioned. But basically, it's a unique mitzvah that both main halachas are really, like we said, nishti nish teher. Both of them are compromises, which highlights the chshivas of the mitzvah. Roy Vishayim say Bizman Hazet Sefiras Rabbanan because we're missing the countdown towards the Mincha Chadosha, but we treat it like a deraisa because the Rambam and others hold it's deraisa because the countdown is for Shavuos. The Bahag's Chiddush number 1 that we missed a full day lost the mitzvah because it's not the mitzvah. The mitzvah is Tamimos. It's a 49-part mitzvah. So like the Bahag, there's no purpose in counting every night below bracha. Most Rishonim hold there's a separate mitzvah each night. So even if you missed a full day, count the next night and on with a bracha. And our compromise is to count to be yoytze the bahag. We don't make a bracha, but we do count every single night. But those that have any suffix or any way to avoid confrontation with the bahag, there's a tzatri mekel that's called svek sveka. Now for those that miss sefira and do not make a bracha, listen to the shots. Say amen, count right away, and don't answer amen in between, don't do anything, hear the bracha, and count quietly to yoytze the bracha, connect the bracha with the mitzvah. A person that counts by day, he missed at night, you count below bracha, even though like the bahag you can make a bracha on it, but again it's that compromise, we count below bracha, and from now on, as we treat as if we did make the sefira so'ima properly. Mi'ikah the din, again, the bahag holds that the day is the right time, but to make a bracha, that day, we don't rely on it. But from now on, we do as if we count it properly. If someone missed even an oinis, even he is no chiyav, an oinin or a ger, L'maisa, once you missed, there's no bracha. Hu adin, a wrong sefira, but any legitimate suffix tilts the scale. Suffix ta'am, suffix loy oma, suffix only said it by day, even though it's a svek sveika l'chumra, but we look at a svek sveika l'kula. Ena chanamli, usually saf brach l'hakol is even a makam svek sveika, but our case is different. We did see that there's no din of toich lamed, you probably didn't say it, because again we have the birur, lidach gisa, of Rishonim that each night is a new chiyuv. An oinen should try to say it sometimes by day. If he knows that he won't be able to say it night or day, let him say it at night. And biyoitzel like bihuda, this way he can continue saying it. A person that, a rav or a bal tefillah that missed one night, the best thing is to get a steady volunteer that's regular, and biyoitzel him, he's still a bar chiyuva. A surgery or a flight that misses one day, there's no problem of l'mafreya, and basically you count every day. Kalacha, what will be, but you don't say l'mafreya, it's a bracha l'batola. Nashim, Mishnah says not to count today, the meaning is they do count. Hopefully, if they did forget, they should remember that you can't continue counting with the bracha. Relying on bein hashmashis is mi'iked din, but it's better to do it bizman. Some, in fact, are more careful with, in a certain sense, sefira than krishma. That's because of the greatness of sefira. A question that we discussed the early Shabbos, you'll have to count the day before. A different time zone regarding if he forgot to say by day, is it tzarchim? And the last question, remember that the chinuch sisoy, the countdown is the Kabbalah Satira, and every day is a new excitement.